I'm here with former WCW World Heavyweight Champion, WWE Hall of Famer, Diamond Dallas Page, good friend of the site. Dallas, how are you doing, man?
I'm actually good, a little wore out. Just got done doing a killer. Just got done doing a killer DDP with one of my partners, and we always push each other pretty hard. And it's crazy. Like, I didn't really feel, as much as I've been doing my program for almost 20 years now, I didn't really feel, over 20 years I've been doing it as a company, almost 20. When I'm doing it, I feel great, but no matter what, now that I'm in my mid 60s, I'm going to be 66 in April. Like, since I got to 62, like, I get so tight, like the Tin Man, and I'll stretch my way out of it and comes right back, and stretch my way out of it. And I watch people who don't like do any kind of yoga or don't do DDPY. If you don't stay ahead of it, you're screwed. Unless you're a freak, or someone who wasn't an athlete, who didn't beat themselves up. But even people who don't beat themselves up, just traveling beats them up. Oh, the car, and oh, my back. And you didn't even do anything. You didn't take, 25 bumps, and then got in the car and drove 200, 300 miles. But the whole thing is, I don't care. After 40, if you're not doing something like what I'm doing, you have no idea what's coming.
That is the truth. Yeah, and I'm in that boat. I'm over 40, and
it's coming.
It's coming. Absolutely. So if you weren't busy enough, now you got the podcast, #1 on iTunes. Yourself, Jake the Snake Roberts. How did this come to be, and how did it get started?
First of all, that's crazy to me that we were #1 the last 2 weeks, and yesterday was, we just dropped another episode today on Tuesday. Are we gonna do this? Let's be on live, right? On Tuesday. So and we're #1 on iTunes as a podcast, which is kind of crazy, and we also have it on Spotify, and we have it on Spotify. We were #5 on their sports page, which was like, what? I didn't want to do a podcast. I would have done one a decade ago if I wanted to. Main reason I didn't want to do, because it's a lot of work. Like when Stone Cold Steve Austin does his podcasts, and Jericho as well. Both of those guys I know really well. They put a lot of work into it. Every time a guest's coming in, they got to spend time, and Steve, as close as we are, there's so much stuff he doesn't know. I just did a really great one with him on Peacock. And that is right up there with my favorite interview. I've had some really good ones with Jericho too. But I put it right up there with Rogan. It was that much fun. And we got a good buzz going. We were drinking red wine. So I got a little emotional at the end. He was it was like he was Barbara Walters. But Steve has been doing that for, close to a decade now, and Jericho as well, close. And I just didn't want to do it because of the time that it would take, because I have 7 different companies. That's how many companies I have. And DDP Yoga being, the rock force of it. We've got a new show. We go into production on March 1st. If anybody's listening and you want to try to be someone who's on the show, just write info. I'll tell you what, write Nadia, Naddya, Naddya at ddpyoga.com. Let's talk about this first, and I'll work my way back into the podcast. This is a show that my team and I have designed, the leader of the team being Steve Yu, who is also the director and videographer for the Arthur video that's got over 1 billion views. Between the 350 million we have between YouTube and Facebook, and so many of the big sites that took Arthur's video and put it out there, and it got now it's got 100 million views or whatever. But we can track it to just at 1 billion views on that video. Steve did that. He also did the one for Vance, which is over, I think it's over 90 million views. And he's a director of the Resurrection of Jake the Snake. So we want to, it's more of an educational, it's a docu-series. It's called Change or Die. And I've already got a couple of people that people are going to know. And I'm just going to stop there with 2 of them because it's not a celebrity show. It's not that. It's people who need, and these 2 people need guidance right now. They need help. And one of them along the line of Jake, and wants to change, and then there's just big people and people who are beat up. And there's going to be 5 of them that we're going to move into the accountability crypt where we film the Resurrection of Jake the Snake. And that's one of my homes that I was renting out, but it became so expensive, the neighborhood, that we were going to get another house, but it was so expensive. And it wasn't even anywhere near as nice as mine. That's like 3/4 of a mile from the DDP Yoga Performance Center. And we said, I'll just take it back. So I gave the people, like 4 months notice. And they're out now, and we're renovating a couple of the bathrooms to make them like, I don't want to say disabled, but people who have challenges, for the tub and that kind of stuff, shower. And we're going to run a 3-month, 12-week just filming. And we're going to bring these people in. It's going to be kind of like Biggest Loser, except we're not beating the people up or doing all the stupid shit that people did. What they did to those people, to me, is criminal. They beat up their bodies when they're already so beat up. And there was a lot of techniques that they used for losing weight, which I would never recommend. And I would never treat people like that. Like, my stuff is like, do what you can do. Just do it. Make it your own. And we're going to teach people how to eat. It's going to be very insightful because most people have no fucking idea what food is. Because you're never going to, how can you see it on regular TV where they have Papa John commercials and Coca-Cola and Fritos and for the 9th Taco Bell? You couldn't pay me to eat Taco Bell. Like, if I was offered $10 million, I would never do any of that fake fast food, which is fake food. I would never put that over to people because that's not how I live. And I'm trying to help heal people, with my team. And we have a psychologist that's going to be involved. He's a therapist to help people mentally. We have the physical, and we're really going to, it's time that people had something positive to watch. So it's kind of like Biggest Loser meets The Apprentice, because there'll be challenges, okay? And each week there'll be a different one. And no one gets kicked out unless they're not working. But there will be people who will be doing better. And you can see by watching them how they came in. Where are they now? It's only 12 weeks. There's only so much you can do. But in 90 days, you can do a lot. And when you actually get people to break their old habits and then come in and start to really realize what's possible. And this show is revolved around change or die. And a lot of people are, the first 2 absolutely in that spot. And the other people I haven't interviewed yet, so I don't know. But that's something coming up. We'll be filming that in March. And it'll be done by the end of the year. We might bring it out in January of next year in 2023. But the podcast, Jake and I, ever since we did the Resurrection of Jake the Snake, and if you've never seen the Resurrection of Jake the Snake and you want to see like who we really are as a team, and I don't mean me and Jake, I mean me and my people who work with me, and they're amazing people that have really big hearts that want to help people. When we did the resurrection. Afterwards, we came out with like a video, and you put it up there on your pages on Wrestling Inc. That was like an update from Jake. Like, where are you? Where are you at now? And we did one just about every year for about 3 or 4 years. And then for a while there, we just, we never sat down again. So Jake was at my house about 8 months ago. And on his way back, he had a late airport flight. And I said, we ain't done an update in forever. Why don't we go buy the PC before, you go to the airport? And let's just do it, an update. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So we did it. And as he was driving to the airport, he texts me and he said, man, you have really upped your game. Your storytelling is at a different level now. And, the way you worked me and you back and forth, we didn't step on each other and you got out a hell of a lot of information. He said, we need to do this. And I text him back, do what? He goes, a podcast. And I call him up because I didn't want to go, no, I don't want to do that in a text. I called him up and said, Jake, you know how long I've had people say they'll do everything for me. All they have to do is talk. And I just didn't want to do it, because again, I can't go into anything half-assed. And I would have to do the research like Steve does and everybody else. And, it's just not something I wanted to do. And I called him up and I said, nah, I'm not really, I don't really want to do one, bro. He goes, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about us. I go, you want to do one together? He's like, yes. And I don't really say no to Jake too often, mainly because I don't live in this ridiculous home or building the beach house or doing all the shit I'm doing in my life that I'm so blessed for without him and Dusty. I never forget that. Never escapes me. So if Jake wants to do something, and I can swing it, I'm going to do it. So I said to him, I'll only do it if Conrad Thompson's involved. And Conrad's become like a podcast king. He's kind of like,
right.
He's kind of like Howard Stern of podcasts in the wrestling regime anyway. And everybody and their sisters got a podcast, So I just called him up. He had 7 of them at the time between Bischoff, Pritchard, Jarrett, Angle, Schiavone, and 2 others I can't remember right now. So I didn't even think he'd do it. And he was like, oh, I'd love that. I'm like, dude, you run a multi-million-dollar mortgage company. Where will you have the time? He goes, I got the time for you guys. I was like, okay. So I called Jake up. He's like, awesome. When do we start filming? I said, well, let's let them get everything in place. What's really fascinating about Conrad, he's got the advertising guy. He's got the PR guy. He's got the graphic designer. And 2 other people, I can't remember what they are, but he's got a whole team of like people. He's like turnkey operation. So we came up with the name. I wanted to call it the Snake Pit. And like Conrad's like, dude, we have to have you in there. And someone said, how about DDP Snake Pit? And I looked at Jake. I'm like, you okay with that? He's like, absolutely. I'm like, okay, so let's do it. And I think that a lot of people, like if you're going to go back and listen to our podcast, go back to number 1. And the reason I say back, if we're only, today is 3. This is our 3rd one. The reason I want you to go back to number 1, because a lot of people who have seen this documentary right here, The Resurrection of Jake the Snake, which is on Amazon Prime. A lot of people have seen that. They got a pretty good idea what I did to help Jake out. But you don't know what he did for me. And that was like episode 1. I wanted to talk about that because it's a crazy story. How I tried to wrestle when I was 23. It didn't work out for me. And, that was in 1979. And I was going to go back after my knee was better. But I started running some, little rock and roll joint, and wrestling blew up huge with WrestleMania. And I was so pissed at myself that I didn't pay my dues. I stopped watching wrestling. And I'll just tell you, Jake Roberts, on so many different levels, is the reason I came back to it. And it was because of him. And then him coming to my club and me telling that story. It sounds like I'm making this shit up, but everything is real. And what's fascinating, he remembers it pretty close. So that's what I really wanted to do. Jake wanted to do it. I wanted to give people a behind the scenes look at what and how it came that me and Jake are as tight as we are, because we're from two different generations. You know, even though we're 11 months apart, he's the 80s, I'm the 90s, you know? So that's kind of fascinating. It's mainly because I started so young. Thank God I didn't, because we talk about this. If I would have kept going and we would have run into each other, you know,
right,
what would have happened then?
Yeah, you mentioned Jake. Cody as well. I know you were very close with Dusty. What do you think about Cody being a free agent right now with AEW? Could you even fathom him going anywhere else?
I can't, but you know, I do a short little podcast type thing with Dr. Chris and my buddy Vince Russo every Thursday night at 10:30 on Instagram, and it's on the Sports Keter Wrestling page. And we just go and we talk about different things. And one of the things that they brought up, there's like 3 different things that we talk about. In half hour, we're done. But one of the things they asked, if you were going to take 3 people from AEW and bring them over to the WWE, who would they be? Number 1 for me is MJF. I think MJF, since the moment I met him, and I met him as he was coming into AEW. I didn't know his work before that, but hanging with him for 10 minutes, I'd never met anyone like that lived the gimmick like he did. Like his commitment to being a heel. We were on, it's one of my favorite stories. We were on Jericho's cruise. And there's one of the comedians is up there, you know, because he's Jericho. I mean, what doesn't he do? You know, but I actually, you know, I'm watching this comedian, you know, there's 1,000 plus people there. And he's like, you gotta love MJF's commitment to being a heel. Now, that's his first time out. I mean, nobody really knows him yet. But people who are knowing him know, oh my God, that guy can talk. He's instant heat, blah, blah, blah. So they're doing a signing, right? And Sting's the most expensive. Let's say Sting's $150. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but whatever the price was, he was $151. So he was the most expensive guy there. And I think he still sold like bringing 80 autographs or something. So that's great money. So it finally gets to these 2 comedians, and they're both there. And they get up to him, and they're like, "Man, we're working this. We're comedians on the boat. We love your shit. You know, your commitment." And in the middle of it talking, he reaches over, he grabs the coffee cup out of the guy's hand like a Starbucks, and spits in it and hands it back to me. He goes, so what the fuck do you guys want? And that's you great. Gotta laugh. You know, yeah. You gotta go, oh my God, I love this guy. So he's my number 1 pick. The fact that he's not 6'4", it don't matter, because right. He's a heat-seeking missile. Now, up there, if he was ever to go there, and they're not letting him go anywhere, if he was ever to go there, the heat that he would draw, not just in the arena, in the back, would be interesting to see how long he lasted there. So, because he just says shit sometimes, right? There's one time, and I won't say what he said, but I grabbed him, and he explained it like a bear. A papa bear would grab his cub and pull him back. Like, what did you just say? Like, it was that thing. You don't say shit like that out loud. You have to have a filter backstage. So I love that kid. I love that kid. And to think he's so young. I loved the video, the 19-minute interview with him and Punk. That's going to go down as one of the best interviews. Not just, of course, MJF was killer, but Punk was killer as well.
Right.
I mean, there you got two of the best talkers.
Right.
And boy, that was some smack talking. That was really, really, that was fun to watch. I actually watched it twice, like a couple of weeks apart. That's how much I enjoyed it. So that's my number one. My next pick would be the Doctor. DM is a DM has whatever. I think that Britt, to watch her grow as a character, she knows how to keep the people in the palm of her hand. Be a baby face, but not. But
right.
not. You know, like she walks the line of the baby face heel as good as you can walk it, because she ain't ever going to put you over for clapping for her, cheering for her. You're supposed to be. Like, that's her character. And it's interesting because in the back, she was, when I met her a few times, and she was already on her way. Super humble, super sweetheart. As long as she stays like that, which I'm sure she will, because that's Adam Cole's girl. So I mean, you can't have two better people in the business to rub off of. Like with that iron makes iron thing. They're both really, really great. But my third pick would be Cody, and my pick would be Cody because they never let him have an opportunity there. They gave him in the beginning, the thing with Orton and stuff, and Ted DiBiase's son. That put him like in a spot, but they popped him right to the middle. And you got to respect Cody Rhodes on a shitload of levels. But the number one was when nobody was leaving WWE, he asked for his release. He was making a minimum of $500,000 a year.
Right.
And he asked for his release. Why? Because he knew he was the top guy. He knew. Tell me a guy who talks better than him. I'm not saying he's the absolute best, but who's better than him?
Right.
They may be just as good. And there's a lot of them guys, not a lot, but I just named two of them.
Right.
Three of them. I just named three of them, but none of them are better than him. Yeah. I mean, when he cuts a promo, it's real. Like, it's as good as it gets. And going up there, and there's no way I would ever go without a guaranteed thing of seeing what was going to happen the next year or two. Like, I want that in my contract, or I get paid everything, and I'll just leave,
Right.
Like, that's the only thing. And, all he really wanted was to be involved in the production, meaning that back thing. If they'd have given him that, he probably stayed, because it's not angles for him. Cody's the one who got behind Britt big time and said, this kid's got talent. He's the one who discovered MJF and brought him in. It's like, he's like his dad. He isn't just looking for his own shit. He's looking to help create other people as well. So that's why he would be something they could really use if they were, because they all love him there. Everybody loves him. So it's not like he's coming in back with the heat. So do I think it would be a smart move if he played two ends in the middle right now? Absolutely.